Okay. Okay. What's going on? What's going on? Here I am with another video on celebrity thoughts. So, gonna be doing a little Peep. Yeah, I know about him. Rest in peace. But I'm gonna get in a little bit of details. I looked him up. Another thing is about emo people that really creep me out is just the black ink hair, the black lipstick, and the I would say the rings, the ear, the eyebrow rings on that. I'm not bad. I'm just saying sometimes I just feel a little bit weirded out around them. But I've actually have seen emo people like online or something like that. But not to. And this is not bad, or it's just me getting out my opinion because it describes loneliness, sadness, and depression. That's pretty much the reason why most of the times they're all, you know, black hair ink, black lipstick, and lots of rings on them, piercings, like eyebrow piercings, nose piercings, like all of that. But furthermore, Little Peep died of a alcohol poisoning, drug overdose. But I'm gonna get into more by hearing this documentary about him. So have a listen.
Everything changes with time. Like you can't predict where you're gonna be next year. You have no idea. You know what I mean? Like there have been points like I've been in very, 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 very low points. My mom always tells me time will heal everything.
His real name is Gustav Elijah Orr. Sounds like a Dutch type of name, but eh, I suppose that's what's his name.
Even if it's like 5 years later and you're still feeling like where the fuck when I'm waiting for this shit to heal, like it's nothing's happening. It's gonna take another few years. You know what I mean? That shit does take time. Everything here is dead. It's easier to see when it's not. I just heard a voice in my head. The rapper was up and coming. He was only 21 years old.
Unresponsive inside of his tour bus from an apparent drug overdose.
And emerging rapper Lil Peep died last night right before he was set to perform in Tucson.
He was on a tour when he passed away. Wow, that's crazy. He died on this tour bus. Wow.
I think you should straighten up a little bit. I think you should, you should look at your.
Gustav was born November 1st, 1996 in Allentown, Pennsylvania, to parents Liza and Carl. His mom was a first-grade teacher, and his dad was a college professor. Liza says Allentown was a small and dead town, and they didn't know many people. Liza, Gus, and his brother Oscar spent most days at home playing and watching cartoons before their dad would come home at night. Although born in Pennsylvania, he would only spend the first 5 years of his life there. In 2001, his dad would get a new job offer at Hofstra University, and their family moved 2 hours away to Long Island, New York. Long Island.
Hofstra. Wow. Hofstra. I passed through that area with my family. That's the place I went graduation on. But damn, that's crazy. Hofstra. Damn, his dad was elected. Wow. But continue on.
Long Island was a very different environment than Allentown. Most classes. His mom says he loved to dance, and he took ballet and dance until he was 7, and then he started taking hip-hop classes. He eventually told his parents he no longer wanted to continue the classes due to the girls teasing him for being the only boy. Gus always had a creative spark, whether it was dancing, drawing, writing short stories, or messing around with the guitar. By the time he was attending middle school, he was beginning to feel like he didn't fit in with a lot of people, and in his words stated, "It's hard to find people you fuck with." His grades that were once near perfect began to slip, and he started to care less about school. Even though he had a few close friends, he mostly stuck to himself. And this behavior would gradually become the normal for him over the coming years. It would only get worse around 10th grade when his parents would separate and his father left the home. People close to him stated he was a different person after this. He became even more of an outcast when he started getting tattoos and smoking weed. His mom, who noticed the changes, encouraged him to try taking therapy or talking to someone. But Gus only found therapy in the drugs he took in his room. With problems.
Wow. Wow, that's crazy. So his parents were separated. Wow. And that explains why he decided. It said right here he was an outcast. No wonder. No wonder he got hooked up on drugs, getting tatted up like that, dyeing his hair pink. It's crazy how the fact that it's a lot of young people like this, man, like go through stuff like this. It's crazy. Crazy thing about it is like it says he was an outcast. His parents, his father wasn't around, and like it said he would turn himself into drugs, and it said drugs was therapy. I'm gonna get more about drugs on here, but still, you're gonna hear my response about drugs, and you're gonna hear it right here.
Problems at home and the feeling that nobody around him could relate to what he was going through would create the foundation of his sadness. With his father slowly leaving the picture, he would look to his grandfather as the man in his life, and they always had a special bond. His room became his safe haven, listening to music, playing RPGs like RuneScape or World of Warcraft, and meeting people online who couldn't judge him. When Gus started to take notice of how other artists were making careers for themselves off the internet, he started to direct his creative energy toward music. While in high school, he wrote his earliest raps, and if you were close enough friends with him, he would freestyle sometimes.
He always wanted to be a rapper.
Yeah. Always good at like a freestyle or anything like that. Like he was always good at it. Always the best one in the room.
Initially going by the name Trap Goose, he recorded his first official songs like Down, Down, Down and Latitude. Unknowingly, Gus was already building relationships that would grow to something much bigger. The beat he produced for Down, Down, Down was from Virginia producer Smoke a Sack, who he met online. Eventually, he couldn't stand being in school for more than 45 minutes anymore. Sometimes he'd throw up before school, and if he did go, he'd end up hopping a 20-foot fence nearly every day to escape, before finally dropping out. He tried getting a job at a seafood restaurant, but quit shortly after. He knew he couldn't just be something regular. At 17, he got his first face tattoo, which was a broken heart near his left eye. He stated this motivated him to go harder for his music, because he knew it would make it harder to get a regular job. He finished high school on a low-pressure online program that only required one essay a week, which he admits his mom usually finished for him. While she slept every night, he would be awake recording new music on GarageBand. While this is happening, Gus's childhood friend Brennan Savage was living in San Francisco, and he invited him to come stay the summer of 2014 at his house while his parents were gone. Wasting no time to get away from the place that was causing him so much pain, he left for California. He stayed the whole summer with Brennan, but as summer ended, Brennan began looking into colleges for the fall semester. Gus wanted to stay in California though, and he began telling Brennan how they should get to LA so he can really try to make a name for himself with his music.
My mom left her car behind, and I would take my mom's car up to LA for the day and go house hunting. We were 18 doing that. Gus was 17.
They were looking in the Glendale and Pasadena area, which was close to Glendale Community College, which Gus and Brennan both enrolled in. Gus knew the only way his mom would approve of him staying was if he told her he was going to school. They eventually moved into 1700 University Drive in Pasadena for $1,600 a month. It was a small house, but it worked for the time being. Gus managed to stay in school for a few weeks, but inevitably dropped out. He knew the real reason he was there was to focus solely on music, and school was never going to be his thing. He couldn't focus, and music was all he was thinking about. As a few months passed, it became increasingly harder for him to come up with the $800 portion of his rent. They were living off of little food and resources. He was recording music, but was getting frustrated with that as well. He felt like it wasn't coming out the way he envisioned it, and was having trouble learning how to mix and master his sound. Things just weren't working out in California, and he decided to move back to his mom's in Long Island.
Wow. You know, it's so crazy because if I recall, California is an expensive ass state, man, and there's stuff you gotta pay in order for you to stay out there. And he moved out there with his buddies out there in South Carolina. He went there just to focus on his music, but became a dropout. So technically, he wound up, going back to his mom's crib. Damn, man. This kid, he was like 18. I can tell this dude look young, man. I can tell this dude is young. But man, I don't really listen to artists that be rapping about hooked up on drugs, man. Because look, man, drugs to me are a virus. You think drugs are good, and you think you taking this stuff, that stuff, but you don't even know what's in there. And if it's for medical accusations, then that's fine. Like medical, that's fine. But if it's for something else, like you just want to take it because you just feel like want to be hooked up on dangerous chemicals or dangerous stuff like that, then man, you already is ruining your life. But what can I say? You can't blame them. You can't judge them for what they're going through. And I can see that, But furthermore, like I said, I will never in my life ever do drugs because, listen, stuff like this is really killing people, man, and that right there is sad. It's a lot of people, artists, actors, dying from this stuff, man. But I'm not gonna get too much deep into this. I'm just gonna continue on the documentary. So, carry on.
Being back home wasn't any better for Gus, but it did something to him that made him more focused and motivated than ever. He started to put all of his emotions and pain into his music without any filter and decided to change his name. Peep was a nickname his mom gave him as a child and used to always call him. He put Lil in front of it and birthed the name we know today, Lil Peep. Over the next 6 months at home, he started to find his sound and was learning how to mix it into something he was comfortable enough to share online. In 2015, he dropped his single Star Shopping, and things slowly started to change. He started to build a small following of listeners and was getting a few thousand plays online. After Star Shopping received so much positive feedback from friends and fans, his confidence that had been tucked away for a long time was beginning to surface again. He was excited and started collabing and making friends with other artists and producers online, dropping 5 EPs within 2015, one of them with the UK artist Gbc and another with Omen. Peep loved the fact that he was meeting more people that were like him. Another collaborator he met was Craig Zen. Craig Zen showed Peep's music to an underground rap collective, Schema Posse, which was run by Jay Green and had other members like Ghostman. Jay Green heard about 30 seconds of Peep's music and already knew he was something special. He DM'd Peep and they ended up talking on the phone, inevitably inviting him to join Schema Posse.
I would say this: artists that go through depression and emotions and they put in their songs, it's a good thing because they get to talk about how their life is and how it's going hard, how they struggled or what they're going through. And that's what music is. You can talk about anything. Like there's a lot of artists that do that nowadays, and I like that. So I like that about artists like that. Especially, I'll give little Peep that as well. But hey, kid was going through stuff, man. He was going through a lot. He was struggling, and he did have emotions that he had to release and put in his songs. And hey, he did that. But continue on.
On September 18, 2015, he released his first official mixtape, Lil Peep Part 1. On the tape, he expresses vulnerable themes like relationship problems, depression, and drug addiction. Problems he's dealt with for years and felt like wasn't being talked about enough in music at the time. Understanding that people were starting to take notice of his hard work, he followed this tape up with 2 more, Mall Music and Live Forever. In early 2016, he was motivated and wanted to get back to LA for a second shot at making a name for himself. He ended up moving back with Brennan in Pasadena, but this time inviting more artists and producers to join them, helping cover the cost of living as well. The 2-bedroom house started to fill and become a hub of like-minded creatives until almost 12 people were living there at one time. Pete, Brennan, Ghostman, Nedarb, and Kill Station were some of the artists living there at the time. They would party and collab on music all day. Although Peep's name was starting to create a small buzz in the underground, he was still struggling and would often live off of canned food and clothes his mother would send him from Long Island.
Let me see this. I just ordered socks and 5 pairs of men's minimum boxes briefs sent to 1700 University Drive. Dang.
Island. They were far apart, but his mom would text him often to make sure he was doing okay and he had what he needed. He always stated his mom was one of his best friends. Schema Posse had a few shows in Oakland, Tucson.
Hey, his mom was always there for him and looked out for him. So yeah, that's a job as a mom. That's why all the moms that are like divorced, separated, independent. Shout out to them for staying by their kids' side and always taking care of them, even though without the husband or the man in their life, they still do their best to make sure their kid has a bright future. So shout out to the independent moms out there.
And Denver lined up, and they included Peep in them. These were his first live performances ever, and admits to taking Xanax before each show to calm his nerves. But despite taking medications, still threw up after every song. By now, he's recently released his single off of his California Girls EP, Beamer Boy, which was quickly becoming an underground favorite. Jay Green would later say the crowds would go off for everybody, but when Peep came on and played Beamer Boy, they went crazy. After their small tour of shows, they ended back up in LA, where they were invited to do an interview with No Jumper. During the interview, you can really see Peep's social anxiety through his body language. He only speaks when spoken to, and even then seems to be out of his comfort zone. This was all still very new to him. Unfortunately, 2 days after the interview, Schema Posse broke up. Peep, Jay Green, and Ghostmane pursued solo careers. Now a free agent, Peep headed back to the Pasadena house and continued to work on more music. One of Peep's producers, Nedarb, was living at the house and started introducing members of the rap group he was a part of, Goth Boy Clique. Gbc was another underground group of artists who Peep had already been a fan of long before. Now he was being introduced to them.
Bumpin' Tracy since 2012. Shout out you.
Bumpin' Tracy since 2012.
Peep began collabing with GBC members Wicca Phase, Cold Heart, and Horsehead online while working on his next mixtape, Crybaby, Tracy Over, who was going by the name Young Bruh at the time. Tracy and Peep hit it off immediately, even recording their underground hit, White Tea, the same day. The video was filmed by Kill Station on an old $30 camcorder, but it was perfect.
Lil Peep with Young Bruh? White Tea? Young Bruh? 35 was it 35 million? 35,000? Damn, 35 million? Damn, man. Not to be a pestle, because I don't really, get into a lot of artists' music like this, but people must be drunk in the head. Like, I understand Little Peep's work and his what he's putting out there with his depression, his emotions, and what he's bringing out there. But most of the time, man, if you look what he's hanging out with, and the groups that he's drugs, man. And I got not the producers. He's just being a producer. Like, he's just doing his job, producing music and putting it out there. But the rest of the guy, they look like drug addicted rappers, man. Smoking all that freaking kush, man. And drinking all that freaking lean and stuff. And technically, man, that's the thing about alcohol, man. People don't even know what they're ingesting in their bodies when they drink this stuff. Alcohol, I know it's like flavoring spikes, flavoring like water or something, but it's with something else though, something effective. Like, I can say chemicals, but I have to really look at what alcohol really is, because when people say Hennessy, vodka, lean, and perks and all that, like, I'm thinking to myself, what is vodka really? What is Hennessy. Like what is that? What's really in there? Because I'm thinking it's chemicals, flavoring chemicals with a sprite of water. But I have to really look that up one day.
Perfect for the aesthetic they were going for. On June 10, 2016, Peep dropped his fourth official mixtape, Crybaby, named after the Crybaby tattoo he recently got on his forehead. The mixtape featured samples from the early 2000s and gave off a nostalgic pop-punk vibe that made it stand out in the oversaturated market of SoundCloud rap. Over the coming months, Peep grew closer to GBC. It was hard to see Peep and Tracy not together. They were inseparable. They even dropped a 3-song EP together titled Castles.
Hey guys, I got a house. It's a lot. Want to see it? I've been homeless for 6 months. And now I have a loft in LA. This is Nedarb's room. And this is my room because I'm swag. You feel me? Look, come on. Come on.
In the summer of 2016, most of Gothboy Clique and Lil Peep decided to move out of the now iconic Pasadena house into a loft in the heart of downtown LA. As Nedarb would say, it was located right on the border of Skid Row. It was a large open space with no real bedrooms, and when you opened the window, you could smell the filth of downtown. It was far from perfect, but it's what they could afford at the time, and they stated it wasn't bad for what it was. There were no noise complaints, and they could be as loud as they wanted. Peep sold one of his songs online for $500 to help come up with the upfront cost to move in. Much like the Pasadena house, the loft became a place of creativity, housing over 10 artists all pursuing their dreams. They would often throw shows and charge people to perform in the loft, using the money to pay rent. Peep's mattress was on the floor, next to an $800 microphone.
Damn, man. If I was an artist, I would save up. I would put my rent money somewhere to save that way I can pay my rent. Like it said, use the money to pay to perform by using the rent money, bro. Damn, man. But let me tell you what with this
Microphone and MacBook that he was using to record new music. On September 16th, Gothboy Clique announced Lil Peep was officially a member through a promotional tweet for his mix Hellboy. Hellboy was released on the 25th of September. It was the first released after joining GBC. The tape is credited to officially bringing Peep's name into the conversation of up-and-coming rappers. Although many of the songs and features on the tape stood out, there was always one artist with more features, and that was Tracy. The two's collaboration started to become fan favorites, and people wanted more from the two. They started making little money from shows around LA, and word started to spread. Lil Peep's social media and streams started to rise, and more blogs were now covering his music. He finished 2016 strong, having dropped a total of 4 EPs and 2 mixtapes, having made a ton of new friends and fans in the process. Things were looking better than ever for everyone, but especially Peep. Even though he was not the first person, he was being credited with popularizing the emo rap sound. In early of 2017, Tracy and Peep dropped Castles too, and with the money he was now making from music, was able to afford to move out of the loft into his own pink apartment in Echo Park. This would be the location for their Witchblades music video, as well as many others. Peep and GBC would go on a 21-show tour across the country, and he was on the brink of breaking out into the mainstream. Although he could finally afford his own success in some way or another, change. At this point, Peep had been signed to a management agreement with First Access Entertainment, and was receiving even more exposure than his peers because of this. Blogs and interviews were covering more of Peep's music, and would oftentimes leave out the fact that he was a part of Gothboy Clique in the process. In May of 2017, Peep took to Twitter to randomly announce he was moving to London, where he lived with Gbc and producer Smoke a Stack. Although there's a lot of speculation about why he decided to move, he never gave a reason, only that he was trying something new. During this time and through the summer, his friendship with Lil Tracy began to strain. Tracy stated he didn't want to be known as anyone's shadow, and that's how he felt things were headed with his relationship with Gus. Although a lot of
yeah, well, I can understand right there. I mean, he don't want to be in the shadow. He doesn't want to follow nobody's shadow. I want to be my own person. I'm not trying to be in nobody's shadow. And hey, that's what's up. Like you want to make a name for yourself. Make a name for yourself. Don't just follow up on somebody's shadow. That's facts right there. And artists that want to prove themselves worthy and want to blow up and trying to make a name for themselves, be like other than rich or famous, they want to be known, be your own person and put work in. Don't follow nobody's shadow. Because you're in somebody's shadow, man. What are you?
Extra exposure Peep was getting could be tied to his new management deal, Tracy still felt like he could have done more for GBC at the time. Peep was gaining a lot of new fans this year, and many of them knew little or nothing about Goth Boy Click or its history. They only knew Lil Peep. In addition, blogs like Pitchfork, who wrote articles about their collaborations like White Wine, wrote paragraphs about Lil Peep's performance on the song, while only giving Tracy a name drop in the last sentence. Although the two had been in a disagreement, they always had love for each other. They would make music together again.
What we do?
You get me.
That's what London does to you, man.
You get me, bro.
While in London, Peep continued to drop singles like Brightside and Ben's Truck while working on his highly anticipated debut album. He was getting more popular every day. On August 15, 2017, Come Over When You're Sober Part 1 dropped. Despite Tracy and Peep not being on the best of terms, he was the only one featured on the album. The album initially received mixed reviews, and Lil Peep's name was reaching new audiences of people, some of which may never have actually listened due to thinking his music was glorifying depression or self-harm, while the other half were fans who didn't overlook his songwriting abilities and found comfort in his music and the dark themes he was shedding light on. On October 2nd, he headed out on the Come Over When You're Sober tour, which included 31 shows. At the start of the tour, Peep seemed to be in great spirits and excited to be on the road again, but over the coming weeks, it was apparent his head was no longer in a good place. It's unclear what exactly was going on during the tour, but what we do know is Lil Peep was not used to being on the road for this amount of time. He only had a few days off scattered throughout the tour, which were used for traveling between shows that were farther apart. On November 1st, he celebrated his 21st birthday on tour. Despite being physically and mentally exhausted, Peep pushed on and was nearing the end of the tour. On November 14th, he performed live in El Paso, Texas for the last time. November 15th was Lil Peep's last day with us. He only had 2 shows left on tour.
Peeps at the back of the bus doing press-ups, sit-ups, working on his six-pack, his muscles. I'm gonna see for myself.
My brother just died in my arms, man. I'm done with this shit, man. Forever. Fuck this shit.
Although he's no longer with us, he's left us with a lifetime of art. In an interview a year prior to his passing, he was asked what his goal in music was. This was his response.
My goal in hip hop is my goal in music is to save lives, like how my life was saved. I was very suicidal, depressed. I was addicted to some drugs, and a lot of different artists has helped me get out of that with their direct lyrics. It's amazing how scientific some lyrics. Some you like some feel like an artist is directly talking to you. That's why I do my music. I try to think other people's problems are having.
Lil Peep went from sitting in his room looking for an outlet to express himself to having millions of fans memorize his lyrics and interpret his messages. For that, his legacy will live forever.
He was 21 years old, man. Well, that's the documentary of Little Peep, and just my thought about this. I could see what he was going through, his pain, his addiction with drugs, but like his first said, he died in his arms, man. Them drugs and the addiction was affecting him, man, and pretty much killed him. I'm telling you, man, rappers these days better going in that Xanax stuff, man, because that's what's killing our artists, man. They doing drugs, drinking. Just stuff. They would know what they're drinking, hot, long period of time, performing. And like I could see artists is struggling. It's like they got to go through show, performing. That takes a lot of energy out of an artist, and that right there is sad, man. But this is what they gotta do, man. It's their job. But it's like most artists don't really come out often, and they don't really have the time to even stay home. They're always on the road performing. And this documentary was about a kid who was struggling, and his father wasn't around, and his mom recently just took care of him the best she can, and he was going around underground just trying to put music out. But the thing is about dudes went through a lot. He turns into drugs, and they start going on being, from being college or school dropouts, focusing on music, pursuing their dreams. Because there's people like that in life that drop out of high school to pursue their dreams as an artist, and they do what they can to put it out there and become successful. I'm telling you, the drugs and the alcohol lean got to him, and he died. I'm telling you, man. You gotta get rid of these drugs off the streets, man. Anywhere possible, like dangerous drugs. I'm telling you. But either way, rest in peace to the kid, and it was, it was an honor to hear this documentary. I mean, either way, I'm not much into emo rappers like that, but emo golf rappers like that, because it's just sometimes it me out a little bit. I'm not hair dyeing it red and all that, like nah, can't really, it weirds me out a little bit. It just creeps me out. But I can see their pain, sadness, depression. That's pretty much to me what an emo and goth person is to me. They go through depression, sadness, and loneliness and pain. So that's what it is to me. But documentary, and this is my thoughts on Little Peep. So, furthermore, I'm about to sign off up here, and have a good night and peace out. I am out.